Governor John Bel Edwards, kind enough to join us here today. Governor, we're 15 weeks out now, and of course the business of the state is always going to take precedent, but you're switching into campaign mode here in Northwest Louisiana.
We are. You know, the election is October the 12th. We've been in session in Baton Rouge until recently, and we're coming out of a very successful session, but we are transitioning more into campaign mode, but you know, you're still also governor every single day, so that you have official functions that you have to perform as well. Look, I'm optimistic. I'm excited about all of it. I'm excited about being governor. I'm excited about the election. I think the session we just had in Baton Rouge was tremendously successful, especially when you contrast it with where the state was just a few years ago. You know, when I came into office, we had a deficit that exceeded $2 billion, the biggest ever. We've actually started running surpluses now. We were able to reduce taxes in the current year by $600 million relative to the previous year, and we still have revenue coming in that's sufficient to fund critical priorities like the first teacher pay raise in 10 years. And that's because the economy is functioning so well right now. We've got the biggest economy in the state's history, the largest amount of personal income in the state's history. We've got record lows unemployment, in fact, the lowest in 11 years. The state debt per capita is actually going down for the first time in a decade. So we have a lot of momentum in Louisiana. The people around the state know it, they sense it, they tell me about it. And we've done a lot of good things. And so I'm excited about running. On my record, I believe it's well received by the people in Louisiana, especially when it comes to this most recently concluded session where we were able to finally turn the corner. And for the first time in 10 years, there's a net new investment in higher education in Louisiana. We increased our investment in early childhood education. And you know about the teacher pay raise. And all of this with a 1% increase in general fund expenditures, much less than inflation. And that's not even to mention the $700 million injection that we're going to give for transportation infrastructure funding across the state of Louisiana, in addition to the normal transportation program. So we have a lot of momentum. We're on a much better path in Louisiana. Still work to do, however. Nobody's, certainly not I, in the end zone doing that dance, you know, spiking the football, that sort of stuff. But we have a lot of work to do, but we're in a much better place. Yeah,
no celebration yet, of course not. And your opponents will speak to, you know, many points to the contrary of what you're saying, though. And much of it is fact-based that you're saying with the numbers, but they point to Texas growing at a faster rate than Louisiana has. What do you say to your opponents in that capacity?
Well, what I'll say is they both supported my predecessor, who ran the state into the ditch, ran that $2 billion deficit. In fact, what they talk about wanting to do is go back to his policies. We're not going back. The state of Louisiana is just not going to do that. But everything I told you is absolutely fact. And we have the largest economy in our state's history right now. We have record low unemployment. We have record high personal income growth. Debt is declining per capita. We know that these things are true. We brought in more than 150 major economic development wins since I've been governor. And we are well over $30 billion capital investment, well over 30,000 new jobs created and about 30,000 jobs retained just on those 150 projects that we're talking about. So they can continue to say that they want to go back to Bobby Jindal. I want to go forward, and the people of Louisiana want to go forward, and they are smart enough, and their memories are long enough. They know what Louisiana was like back in 2015. They know how much better off we are today, and so I'm happy to have that discussion with my opponents, and I'm happy to have that conversation with the people of Louisiana.
Sure. You know, when the last time you ran, it was a bitter fight to become governor. Here, it seems a little bit more civil discourse this go around here, especially with the congressman as well. Let's talk to the point of you being here today with the teacher pay raises, though. That was a priority of yours heading into the legislative session. You have to be very pleased that the educators are finally getting what they need.
Well, I am very pleased. And look, the pay goes to the adults, but the investment is in our children. So we announced a year ago, coming out of the last session, in 2018, that the number one priority would be a teacher pay raise, the first one in 10 years, because we have fallen. 10 years ago, we were at the Southern average in pay. Today, we're about $2,200 below the Southern average. So this $1,000 pay raise per teacher is really important to make sure that we have an opportunity to have the most well-educated, professional, highly motivated teachers we can have in the classroom with our children, and we're helping our school districts across the state of Louisiana to attract and retain those teachers. But it's not just the teachers, it's all certificated personnel, whether they're school nurses or counselors, but primarily these are teachers in terms of the numbers. But we also had a $500 raise for support workers, so bus drivers and custodians and paraprofessionals, because they contribute to the education of those children on campus too. And we were able to get that done in an overwhelmingly bipartisan fashion, which is, by the way we've done everything since I've been governor. Mm-hmm. Everything has been done in a bipartisan fashion. We're still able to talk and get along in Louisiana. You don't see a whole lot of that coming out of Washington. Mm-hmm. I don't want us to ever look like Washington, D.C. in this regard. But we are doing better for our children. Not just in K through 12, although that's where we had the biggest net new investment, mm-hmm. but $19.8 million to get another 1,500 or so kids into quality child care daycare slots, I should say, so that we're doing more with early childhood education so that more children will show up at school ready to learn. And as I mentioned before, the higher education as well. Education is synonymous with prosperity. It is synonymous with opportunity. And I know this because when I talk to CEOs and they're making investment decisions about whether they're going to come to Louisiana, the number one question they have is, are you committed to having the talent pipeline in place so that we will have the employees we need to be successful? And what they're saying is, are you going to have the education and the training in place so that your people here in Louisiana will be great employees for us? And the answer is yes. We have made those commitments. They are seeing us follow through with the way we are funding higher education again. Higher education was cut in Louisiana under my predecessor over those 8 years deeper than any other state in the nation. And tuition increased more than any other state in the nation over the same 8 years. So we had to get off of that path. We're in a better place today. And we're going to keep moving forward.
Yeah, let's talk bipartisan bill as well, that you signed the abortion bill.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a bill that a vast majority of Louisiana believes in, and you believe in it as a personal decision as well. Speak to the bipartisan effort with it, but speak personally why you signed that bill.
Well, I've got a long record, and I've always been pro-life. The people of Louisiana knew that when I ran. Right. I had 8 years in the legislature before I became governor. And so I followed through on that. But my pro-life vision is not just on the issue of abortion. I believe the Medicaid expansion is pro-life too. So we've got about 460,000 working poor men and women with health insurance today who didn't have it before I became governor. Now they get an opportunity for primary care and preventive care. They're getting diagnosed earlier with diseases so that they can be more effectively treated. And in many cases, these people are given an opportunity to live. And so that is an extension of my pro-life views as well. And we've been crystal clear on this with the voters of Louisiana all the way through. And I'm looking forward to continuing to protect health care access in Louisiana. We haven't had a single rural hospital close in Louisiana in contrast to other states. The Medicaid expansion is one of the ways we address that $2 billion deficit because we actually save money by bringing our federal tax dollars home and insuring people for no more than 10 cents on the dollar, whereas if they remain uninsured, it costs 40 cents on the dollar every time they get care. So we're also having a big economic impact. 19,000 jobs in Louisiana related to the Medicaid expansion, about $3.5 billion of economic activity, and that's in every corner of the state. So that was the right thing to do as well. And look, I'm interested in moving forward. That's what the people of Louisiana are asking me to do, and so that's why we have to work in a bipartisan way. That's the way you led into the question. Unfortunately in in Washington, you don't see a lot of bipartisanship. You don't see Republicans and Democrats really talking or working together, listening to one another, and looking for that common ground and being able to move forward. But with me being a Democratic governor and having majority Republican legislature, both in the House and the Senate, I can't do anything unless we are bipartisan in our approach. And we've been successful because we work really, really hard. We listen. We find those areas where there's agreement, and we build from there. And I think it's serving the state of Louisiana well.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the legislature, were there any money-making opportunities or revenue streams that you feel you guys might have left on the table this session?
Well, there was one, and quite honestly, I was disappointed about it. I believe that with respect to sports betting, we need to move forward. Mississippi did. They're a full year ahead of us now, and I believe we ought to make that available in Louisiana. The casinos would be more competitive with the neighboring state, but also not so much because there's net new revenue be available to the state, but because if we don't do this, we will lose existing gaming revenue, because my fear is that some people who want to sports bet are also the people that are doing the other gaming activities in Louisiana now, but they'll take those activities to Mississippi or elsewhere where they can do this. And so I think that was an opportunity that we missed. But you know, I don't look at the last session as a failure in any respect, because we did so many good things. When we raised the age of foster care to 21, something we need to do. When a kid turns 18, they're not ready to be put out, you know, and say, go fend for yourself. And so that was very, very important. This infusion of $700 million additional funding for investment in transportation infrastructure over and above what we normally do through our program through the State Transportation Trust Fund is going to be really critical. So here in the Shreveport area, for example, the project that was selected by the delegation in Northwest Louisiana is the I-49 connector. Right. And if you think about that investment along with what we're doing at the interchange in Bossier, off of I-20 to get into and out of Barksdale Air Force Base, these are significant infrastructure investments that are going to make a positive difference for generations to come.
Yeah. I-49 was chosen over the Jimmy Davis Bridge here, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Jimmy Davis Bridge.
Oh, I'm very familiar with it. And what we did is, well, it was a decision made by the delegation, so and primarily the senators, but in consultation with House members to pick that particular project. And look, I'm just excited that we're advancing transportation infrastructure. Obviously, the Jimmy Davis Bridge needs attention to, and it's going to be expensive, as you're aware. But I'm not going to bellyache about one project was selected over the other, because had they selected the Jimmy Davis Bridge, then there would be people saying, well, why we didn't pick the I-49 connector. I'm just going to celebrate the fact that we're going to get it done. And I hope the people of Louisiana see that this additional investment in transportation infrastructure is going to benefit every single region of our state.
Yeah. Well, lastly here, you're 15 weeks out, and momentum with 15 weeks out isn't the most important thing. But 7 weeks from now, you know, 8 weeks from now, momentum is going to be very important to you. How do you feel about your campaign, where you're at right now, and do you feel momentum building?
I do, and the reason momentum is building in the campaign is because the state has momentum. We're doing better, and people know it. And so that's translating into the campaign. And I get a great reception when I travel around the state of Louisiana. Nothing makes me happier than to meet someone for the first time and they tell me that there's some decision that we've made since I've been governor that has benefited them and their family. It could be the Medicaid expansion. It could be a number of other things around foster care, you name it. But the people of Louisiana know what I've been talking about here with you today, and that is that we're doing better. As a result, our campaign is in great position today. We take nothing for granted. Just like I work hard every single day as governor advancing the interests of the state of Louisiana, I'm also working hard every single day to advance our campaign. But with the reception that I'm getting and what the polling looks like right now, we're extremely optimistic and we're excited about it, and I look forward to continuing to take my case to the people of Louisiana and engaging in dialogue with them over the course of this campaign. And you know, I look forward to serving the state of Louisiana for another 4 years.
Wonderful. Governor, thank you very much, and I appreciate your time here. And, of course, you can hear more from Governor John Bel Edwards on his visit here to Northwest Louisiana and Shreveport in particular today on NBC 6 News at 5 and 6 o'clock.